Welcome to another episode of Are You Mad at Me? I'm Vickie Morgan, author of A Famous Sexy Writer, A Guide to Self Publishing. And so we're going to talk about self-publishing and marketing and all those wonderful things. And our guests on Are You Mad at Me today are the amazing Vincent Walsh and Will Hickey. Boys,
thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for letting us come.
Okay, so what are we going to talk about today? You guys, okay, so I wrote this is a guide to self-publishing, and then I did these bare bones guides on all these things, and I apparently wasted my time because you guys went ahead and did it all yourself. So it is possible. Not only is it possible, but you can actually succeed and do really, really well, which is what we're trying, myself and Josh are trying to tell people all the time, is that anybody, literally anybody, could write a book if you feel called to it. And so tell us about Mooncrest. Of course, Mooncrest came out. It's been out for about a year.
Almost, yeah.
It's available on Amazon as an ebook and a paperback. And so tell us about the journey. Tell us about your writing journey. How did Mooncrest come to be a thing that exists?
Okay. So to start with, I'll say that a lot of voices live in my head. Don't worry, we've had that checked out. It's fine. No, but
we might have to cut that out. Okay. Before we go any further, I'm going to just to let you know that Vince and I have been friends for a very, very, very long time. He was there the night that I met Josh, so we go back a long ways. This show might get off the rails. I apologize in advance, but it's probably going to be a little bit of a cluster. And join us; it's going to be a blast. So anyway, let's start over. Vince, tell us about the book.
All right. So, by the way, quick little idea, keep in and out. But like, I should totally come on sometime if you ever want to do like an anniversary edition. I'd love to be like, I was there the night you met. I'd love to tell my story about the night you met.
That's a fantastic idea. I love that. We'll act it out.
Okay, for sure. Okay, so yeah, thanks for having us on, and we are here to talk about our book, Mooncrest. The paperback, which you will see, only has my name on the cover, which something we still kick ourselves for. We will be fixing that because this is only the first of 3 in a trilogy that will come out, but we're going to talk about this one today. Mooncrest, I don't know. I'm gonna
patent pending on the word trilogy. I just want to say that,
yeah.
So just to point it out, trilogy. You heard it here.
Yeah.
Also, we invented cancel.
It's true.
We'll come back to that.
Like, cancel culture, royalties can come to us.
You're welcome.
We came up with it 2
You're
decades
welcome.
ago.
Okay, trilogy. I'll stop interrupting. I promise. Josh, you should just turn my mic off. Okay. Okay.
But so yeah, Mooncrest. I've always been like so drawn to the supernatural, the paranormal. Name your favorite Slayer shows. Buffy, Angel, True Blood, which we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Great show.
Oh my God.
All of these shows.
Silky.
Right? All of these shows I loved. My husband Will, he loves a lot of that too. And so, like, I always had this huge imagination, but something that maybe is worth diving into a little bit later in the interview, in the chat, is that I'm dyslexic. So it's very difficult for me to sometimes even read a book. Mm-hmm. I love audiobooks. I love when people read to me, and I do love curling up and taking my time to read a good book. Mm-hmm. I've done it with like 4 or 5 huge ones throughout my whole life that like sit in my heart and live forever. But I've always had this imagination. So let's call it midlife crisis. Let's call it just life was changing rapidly around me. Mm-hmm. My mom had passed from cancer. My sister was diagnosed with cancer. Mm-hmm. I had gotten a job in mental health, which I loved, but there were changes within the organization, and they canned me and a few others. No, not fault of our own as far as I'm concerned, but anyway.
We hate them. They're losers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although, if you are in need of mental health, do reach out to someone.
Oh my God, absolutely. But anybody that would let you go, trash.
Yeah, we don't like them. The board, they don't work on the line anyway, so the board are terrible. But yeah, so back to all of this lives in my mind. So one day I literally just said to Will, with not much intention or not much of a plan.
Yeah.
I'm like, I have this story in my head of like vampires, witches, werewolves, and just like a place where they can all just be themselves. And like, I talk to myself and I tell myself this story all the time. I'm like, I would love to be able to like sit down and write that down, but perhaps I was being short-sighted on myself. Maybe I do have the ability to do that myself sometime, but it was to my surprise, but also my happiness that my husband Will speaks up and goes, well, why don't you tell me the story? And why don't I write it? And I'm like, that'll be a thing? And he's like, yeah, for sure. So
Absolutely.
From that moment, the things I'll say is we had our biggest laughs making this book, writing this book. We had our biggest arguments writing this book, making this book. We went through the gauntlet on both ends, but I would honestly say that it is something that I think is interesting for any relationship to dive into. Mm-hmm. It's both challenging at times, and it's also rewarding at times. Because I don't regret a second of it. I think back on the arguments and I laugh about them now, but then I think back on the laughs and like, just, we could do a bloopers reel for hours about some of the silliness that we went through when we were developing this story.
Still go through that, it pops into our minds half the time when we're having a conversation, that some of the stuff that was like, what the hell? And then just start laughing for no reason.
Right?
I think that'd make a great podcast. I'm just saying. I'd love to hear, chapter by chapter, I'd love to hear where the fights happened and where you're still laughing. And I know people have come up to you in the lunchroom and said, you son of a whatever. So I know people get very engaged in it. And I love hearing that you guys loved the process so much. We actually, so someone that's been on the podcast with us already, Mike Boyle and Randy Crane, published On New Turf earlier this year, and that's pretty close to how their process was too. Mike was a storyteller, and very well known in Ireland and Newfoundland, and had these stories. But when it came to putting pen to paper, and he was a teacher who had been in charge of classrooms and stuff like that. But it's the skill of actually sitting down and writing it out. So Randy basically translated the things that Mike was saying, and the book was an instant bestseller. So. I think this might be becoming a thing where folks find a way to. I mean, me sitting at a computer is the same thing. It's like it's a tool that helps you put the thing on the paper, right? And the main thing is, these are your ideas and your story, and it's in a paper. Like this is in a paperback and ebook format. I mean, it's however it gets there. It's not AI.
No,
it's not a generate.
No.
It's from your brain.
Yeah,
scary as it is, and terrifying place that it is, and like.
You have no idea. You might have an idea.
We had to tame it a little bit. The ideas that were coming out.
There were some ideas that were like, oh, the world's not ready
for that.
But yeah, for the most part, we really just enjoyed doing it, and it really did. I think that I think I speak for both of us when I say like it. I think it helped like grow our relationship.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like we've been together for like what?
15 years.
15 years. Yeah. And there's still growth happening, and this book was part of it. Mm-hmm. And like that's kind of wild and fun.
I don't talk about mental health a lot when it comes to writing because it's one of those like people don't want to hear about that. But I think the therapeutic benefit, it's just fun. It's just fun. Mm-hmm. And when you're able to have meet a person that you can have fun with, I think that's like the long-term, that's the recipe for long-term happiness, is when you're able to have fun together and have a laugh.
Know what the real fun is when you go back to read it and all the typos you may have. Fun reading those over and trying to figure out what you were actually trying to say. I
like when you're able to go back and look at the book because you've been away from it for a little while and you're actually enjoying reading it again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like it's like, where did this even come from? Did we do that? Like, is that something? Yeah, that's kind of a fun thing. I like that.
Yeah, we've done that with certain.
Well, we have our second book written. It's not edited and it's not published yet. We're hoping to have it published before the end of 2025.
Okay.
The first book and the second book, they flow together. Mm-hmm. The second one picks up where the first one leaves off.
Yep.
But even then, like in such a short span, like we wrote this book, as hard as it is to believe, like we wrote this in 3 months.
That seems to be the magic number.
Yeah, and our second one took 6.
Okay.
But our lives got busier.
Yep.
So the process had to slow. But even like just as recently as like this time last year, we had finished writing this book. It was in editing, but like still we had to go back and be like, what did we name, or what did we call? Like what was this? And like, so it actually several times it was like a new experience.
Going back and
because like,
reading,
sure, we remember the overall story, but like the minute details that like make a story, like we'd go back and be like, what did we say about that? Who did we name this person? What did we call this?
Yeah.
Foresight. Make notes when you're writing.
They help. Notes are important.
Yeah. So in TV, that would be called a character Bible.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is good because it's laying the groundwork. I think you guys kind of have your eye on that, right? To do either.
We did that with the second one, and
yeah.
and
But just to have just to look forward to possibly turning it into a movie or film.
Would love that.
Yeah.
I know little to nothing about AI. We talked about this earlier. I feel like sometimes I'm a dinosaur when it comes to technology. Thankfully, I have good friends who are not afraid, and a husband who isn't afraid of diving in, and they can just show and or teach me. So that's great. But like with the growth of AI, like who's to say in 5 to 10 years you won't be able to sit at a computer and create a live action
Oh, they're doing that now. They've got like SpongeBob has a 24-hour thing where they're just generating, and the characters on the screen are doing the thing. So that's where it's headed. But I like, as far as like the character Bible, I mean, you could feed your book into AI and have AI pull your character Bible so that your details are all in one place, and it's kind of amazing the stuff that it'll do.
It's a great time to be able to do this.
It's
on this
magical.
platform.
So I want to go back to something you said about having dyslexia. I mean, if you're new to the podcast, this might come as a shock to you, but our good buddy Nate Bargatze also, we're pretty sure, has dyslexia. And he just came out with his first book called Big Dumb Eyes, which probably my favorite book ever. And I did buy it in paperback and in audiobook because I wanted him to read to me. I don't know. It was fantastic. But he had an editor, obviously, but it's a fantastic book, and it's just in his speaking voice. He tells all these stories because he's a great storyteller. But when it comes to like reading, like if you've ever seen his podcast, he reads comments from the listeners and stuff, and he trips over stuff that. But anyway, I think the listeners have kind of diagnosed him anecdotally as having dyslexia. But it's not. I think it's one of those things that you kind of assume this world must be not available to me anymore if there's a barrier. But it's really like, it's how many stories have we lost because someone thought that they couldn't because they had a reading issue.
Well, if I can dive down like a little bit of a personal path, a personal road for myself from the time that I was a child. First of all, we'll start with small town. Everyone knew everyone. We're also talking early 90s. I hope that there are people that are watching this that can remember the early 90s.
That was in the 1900s.
Yeah, exactly. The 1900s. But I'm sure there's people who weren't even born in the 90s. And like, I live with 2 teenagers. So... Ew. I know.
Ew.
Yeah, it's I don't recommend honestly. But anyway, so back to then when I would be plummeting and failing on every mark, every test, every assignment, every book in school. I don't think I'm speaking to the audience in front of me right now that would be shocked at this. You guys probably already know, but some people might be shocked to hear that at that time the teachers and principal were reporting to my mom that not he needs help, not he's trying harder, no, he's lazy. He's not doing his work.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to learn.
Yep.
So that was a label that I tried really hard for a long time to get over. Mm-hmm. We did move from a small town to a small city, but still probably the largest city in Newfoundland. Mm-hmm. And things did get a little bit better. People recognized that it was a learning disability. They set me up with some counseling. They set me up with some help and tutoring. Mm-hmm. That boosted my confidence more than anything. But it did also help with my learning, and I learned that there were ways for me to learn. But I've been told so often, I was told as a kid, like, you'll never be able to do that, or you'll never be able to do this. Even when I was in high school and we're doing through, like, careers and stuff, like, I had career counselors go, nah, too much reading in that for you. And I'm like, Oh, okay.
Wow.
So then further, I mean, I was also born with bilateral club feet. So I've had issues with mobility for most of my life. I was told I most likely won't walk regularly, and I certainly won't run or jog. I don't run or jog, but that's by choice.
Unless you're being chased. So
Unless I'm being chased.
Why would you run?
Of course. So, yeah, and I'm here, I guess, to say that, like, there's been a lot of people tell me a lot of things, but the people that I listened to the most was my family and myself and my closest friends, and none of them ever said anything less than, you can reach for the stars. You can do, like, nothing can stop you from trying. Does it mean you'll always be a wide success? Maybe not. But does it mean that you can't try and you can't do your best? No, it doesn't. So, yeah, there's a lot of things that people can do, and I don't think they realize that they can until they try.
It's funny, such a funny diagnosis, because it's not, it didn't, I've never noticed it. It's not something that comes across in conversation or in the depth of your ideas or the creativity or the imagination or the compassion or empathy. It's all like, so you have trouble looking at letters on a, it's not that you don't know the words. Well, it's just that when you see them written down, like if you put sheet music in front of me right now for a piano, I could letter by letter tell you, what each note is, but I can't translate that in through my fingers onto the piano. So, but am I a musician? Also, yes. Like, but it's really it's the there's a connection there with the comprehension part of it. It's like it's just a part of the brain that
it is.
Probably I bet you there's extra connections in other parts of your brain that are quite gifted in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I'm not even going to sugarcoat. Yeah, like I am great at some things that other people aren't. Like depth perception. I have people like going, I don't know. I'm like, it's gonna fit and have like that much room left, and I'll be right. Yeah. But back to how it affects the brain, how people learn, how it affects me personally. If I may, could I pick up your book?
So this is the one. This one has a font that is actually Comic Sans, and this is actually one that's intentionally should be a little easier to read for somebody with dyslexia. Okay, so this one will be difficult. So you tell me which one side by side.
I'm just going to take literally a sentence from this book. Okay. So on this page, it says, if I may read.
Absolutely.
Okay. Before the pandemic, the parking lot was full of idealistic cars. So I was able to read that just perfectly.
Individualistic.
Well, there you go.
That doesn't even make any sense.
But regardless of that, individualistic. I did glance. I didn't read.
That's not even. Why would I call a car individualistic? That's not even. Anyway, I think what I meant was before the time that all the cars were like they were the same. Yeah. Okay.
But okay, so I just read that. You heard me read that mostly correctly. But if you were to ask me right now, how do you spell pandemic? I wouldn't have a clue. I would be able to tell you it started with a P and that it ended with a C. But aside from that, the letters in between, no clue. I read it off a page, but if you ask me how to spell it, no recollection. If you tell me how to spell pandemic, I will retain that for seconds.
So you don't, like, if I spelled it out, you don't, like, I feel like I see a typewriter when somebody spells something for me until I had a brain injury. I had a concussion many years ago, and that was a couple of the things that went. I started spelling things wrong. That was one of my top things, was I was a good speller because, over perfectionist, whatever, in school, because, didn't want anybody to know my family was poor and things like that. So I tried to, whatever. But I lost numbers. Like, I couldn't remember if somebody told me a phone number. There was no way I could remember more than 3 digits at a time. But it was like a thing that it did come back. But the spelling part of it, I still kind of catch myself every now and then. Like, it was one of the things I was very good at, and it was one of the things that went after I've had a couple of concussions, but anyway. But it's really weird, like, to me to, like, because I do see it, like, it feels to me like somebody's spelling it out when somebody spell, like, I can see the letters and I can read them off the, invisible card in my head. Like, that's how, it's just interesting that goes for you, that doesn't. Yeah. And
that's the way it's always been. So as a child, that was labeled.
But how would you know that? Well, like, unless somebody asked you that question, how would anyone put that together?
Well, no one ever did. It was the funny thing. Yeah. Not till circa 95, 96. I'm, for the first time ever, having tutoring, having licensed people who understand the brain literally do tests on me, which was fun. They're not as invasive as you think. These didn't require wires or machines. It was mostly just mostly just questions and memorization.
Yep. I was awful at that.
Yeah, and funny thing, I was great. So
could not get it. Like, they'd read a paragraph and then ask a question, and I'd be there going, "Oh, I'm dead, man! I'm going to get in so much trouble." Like, I had no clue how to the comprehension part of it. I could read like
For
a champ.
me, it's the complete opposite. Like, Vince can, or anyone can tell me something today, tomorrow, and I will not remember.
It's gone.
But you ask me something that happened 15 years ago, and I'll remember it just like that.
Wow. I do. I also have really good long-term memory, but I have good short-term memory too.
I do not.
But yeah. So
funny?
One day, while we were just in an office with this woman who was doing all these tests, she's like, "It's so interesting." She's like, "So, like, explain to me what you see on the page." And I was like, "I see probably the same thing you see on the page."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Okay, but, like, you can read it. How can you read it without knowing how to spell it?" I was like, "I don't know." And so she was the first person to make the connection that because I was so good at retaining memory, words would look so familiar to me that memory would produce them to the front lobe, and they'd come out of my mouth, not necessarily knowledge of what it spells.
Okay, you couldn't spell them. That is fascinating.
And I also learned that there's over 300. I actually could be lowballing that now, so if someone knows the difference, please comment and let somebody know.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's over 300 types of dyslexia.
There's one for numbers too, isn't there?
Dysgraphia is mostly numbers.
Yeah. So we, Josh and I actually produced a documentary a few years ago about my uncle, who, back in the day, I mean, he would have been 90 something this year. So, you know, we're talking about early 19, whatever.
Yeah.
So back in the day, he lived on a farm, and his mom went blind from, turns out, probably from diabetes. They didn't know that at the time. They just thought it was a thing that just happened. But anyway, she had all their issues. But he stayed home on the farm, helping out on the farm, taking care of the younger kids and stuff. And so he was in school, and he failed grade 2 3 or 4 times. And nobody, I mean, some of it was, well, he's not in school very often or whatever. But it turns out, like, that's as far as he went because he was embarrassed, and it just got to be, it was easier for him to be home on the farm. So when he got older, he was offered a job, like when he, 15 or 16, he went out on a seal hunt because it was a manual job and he didn't need anything, reading stuff. And then came home from the seal hunt. They offered him a job at a gas station doing booking tow trucks, and he couldn't write down the addresses, so he couldn't stay at that job. And so they found out that he couldn't read. And after, he went through grade 2 3 or 4 times, but he became a millionaire. When he died, he was a millionaire because he had this brilliant mind for business and math. But as far as if I told him, I'm going to be at this wherever, or here's go pick up this thing from Will Hickey, if I spelled out your name, he would write it down. He couldn't read it back, but he'd write your phone number, but he couldn't write or read, and he would put an X on contracts. Like, he could not read, but he was a brilliant genius when it came to business and math. I mean, you couldn't trip him up on math. Wow. And he raised 7 daughters, and he was a millionaire, and he had a bunch of grandkids, and he left this huge legacy, and he was brilliant. Couldn't read. Couldn't, for the life of him, couldn't. He would take off here in an RV and go up to Montreal. And I said, "How did you navigate all the roads?" And he was like, "I don't know. I just had a really good sense of direction. And if I got lost, I'd stop and ask somebody." And that was right up until he died. He was still traveling in his RV and without being able to read road signs.
Wow.
Credit cards. We saw him at Costco one time, just before he passed away, and he didn't know how to put the pin code. He didn't know how to work the pad at Costco, ordering some lunch, and this is how he got through life. He just called over somebody that was in the lineup and said, "Can you put this in for me?" And this stranger took his credit card, put in all the stuff that he was like, "What's your passcode?" And he told him he didn't get robbed outside the store. He got his hot dog. Yeah. Nothing bad happened. But he functioned, and he knew how to get through, and that's just how he got through life. But it was, his reading comprehension never got better. But again, millionaire,
Something is to be said about the kindness of others, I think, or kindness of strangers.
He did have to rely a lot on people being kind, but he also had this like really charming personality where he'd say, he just talked his way in and out of everything, and very much a genius.
Yeah.
Yeah, and great stories and stuff. Unfortunately, he passed away before we got most of his stories recorded, but we did do a short documentary. It's called $1 Million View. The restaurant up on the Southern Shore?
Yeah.
That's his. There's a sign. There's a picture of him out on the sign. That's his face. Yeah, Bernard Kavanaugh.
Amazing.
So you can go check that out. All right, so what else are we going to... So tell us about the story.
Right.
Give us a synopsis, tell us what Mooncrest is about.
100 words or less now, baby.
Yes, give us the elevator pitch.
Impossible.
Give us the elevator pitch. So I'm going to press the button and we're going... put the mic... Josh is gesturing at me. So let's say we're going up to the 50th floor. I just pressed the button. You tell us what Mooncrest is about. Tell us the genre and basically the type of book that it is that people can... If they were looking for that kind of book, tell us what's in here.
Okay. So I could actually just read the back cover, but I'm not going to do that because you can do that online.
I think it'd be kind of funny to watch a dyslexic person read on the air.
We've already seen how that turned out.
I mean, I'm going to call out again that I do have my Nate Land mug here, and I love that there's such a connection. Anyway, feel free to tell us about the book, please.
Right. So, Mooncrest is about a 25-year-old named Josh Winters. Josh Winters is adopted, and he learns about the sudden passing of his estranged adoptive grandfather. So him and his family and a close friend of his, they all go to Atlanta, Georgia, for the passing and the reading of the will and everything. And it's there that Josh learns that his grandfather's left him a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom condominium in the lavish estate of Mooncrest. So he's thrilled by this condo for free. Who doesn't want that?
24.
So then let's see.
25.
Maybe I'll be on the ride down too. Anyhow, so after the passing of his grandfather, he goes to Mooncrest. Funny enough, the night before he got the news of his grandfather, he had like this random online hookup with this hot guy named Declan. Okay. So when he walks into Mooncrest, he sees how beautiful it is. He's given a tour by the head of security, a gentleman named William and a woman named Diana. Funny thing, Diana was also in his class because Josh is a professor of the mythology and folklore at the local university. Okay. All of this happens in the very, very fake, but in our world, very, very real town of New Holland City, which is in the 51st state of New Holland. Who doesn't love to go to New Holland? 51st state. Right, not Canada.
We're
New Holland.
We're 33. We got lots of time.
So then we get to the Mooncrest building. Yeah. He sees it.
And this is here in New Holland.
Yes, this is in New Holland. Okay. Where he already lives and where he works at the university.
Yep.
The day he's moving in, he bumps into Declan, this stranger from the night before, and he's like, "Wow, wild! You're here too." Yeesh. Declan is the head of the board of Mooncrest. Okay. And now the audience may have already, and the readers might have already known this, but now Josh begins to learn Mooncrest isn't really what meets the eye. Okay. So Mooncrest is a carefully camouflaged, just fortress, just I guess utopia where vampires, witches, werewolves, creatures of folklore mythology are real but can be themselves. They can talk among themselves. They can turn into a wolf if they want. They can use spells, and because humans don't live here, and now Josh is the first exception. Okay. And why or how he got there is part of the mystery, as he will be revealed as you dive in. Yeah. But Josh does learn about Declan being a vampire. He learns about the witches, the vampires. He embraces it. He thinks this is pretty cool, but also he's not aware that all of this had been planned. He would be here it's been preordained almost. His entire life's been planned for him to be here at this time because there's somebody who's pulling the strings behind the scenes, and Josh holds something in his DNA that will unlock an evil unlike the modern world has ever seen.
Okay.
So will the heroes win? Will the villains? Who's to say? But we've got all of that in this book, and once you read that one, you'll have to read the next one.
One of the running themes for Are You Mad at Me is how important it is to surround yourself with people who aren't mad at you, who will actually support your dreams and follow through on the crazier ideas and support the things that you're doing. Because otherwise, what's the point of life, really? So,
and someday, I hope that he'll meet someone that will do that for him.
We all can dream, I suppose.
Tell us what it's like to be on the other side of being married to somebody who has these creative ideas, and how do you do it? Tell me what it's like to give some advice to all the other good husbands out there. How do you? Because I have one myself. My Josh is amazing, and he mops me up off the floor most days, and he's producing the podcast. Thank you, Josh, and to the production crew that's here. It's fantastic.
Yep.
But I mean, tell me why are you so supportive?
Mostly because he's so passionate about it. I see how passionate he is. But it's something, I think if you're going to be doing it with your partner, both of you have to enjoy it. It has to be something that you have to care about too. Not just because you care about the person, but you have to be into it in order to be able to be supportive to them. And the type of story this turns out to be, it was something that I really, when he told me about it, I fell in love with it, and then I just wanted to make it happen from there, and just to be more supportive that way.
Okay.
Now, as he said, there were many, many arguments at times where we disagreed, and I would bow because it was his vision that, okay, it is your vision, I will let you have it.
Not always.
I did get one. I will say that. I did get one that I changed his mind about. Well, there was another one too. But yeah, you just listen and be more supportive, I think, is the best way to do it. And secretly change the words afterwards. I don't know.
So he knows I won't read the book. So he'll, if it ever actually does go to audiobook, I'll be listening to it. Somebody will be like, wait, what?
A second. That's not what I said at all.
But no, he's actually shown me every change he's made. I've loved
of course.
Any change that he's made actually has just enriched the book.
I mean, I can tell you, first time I got married, and I've said this before, and I'll say it for the rest of my life, the first marriage is really only for practice, so don't worry if you've been divorced. Being married to somebody who is this person walks in a room and finds you working on something that you're passionate about and things, who will actually engage and ask how things are going and take an active role in what you're doing and be supportive and say, hey, do you need a cup of tea? Can I, are you hungry? Have you eaten? It makes a huge difference. It makes life worth living. Whereas, sometimes you can be with somebody in the same house that has no interest in what you're doing, does not take any sort of, talks to friends and doesn't mention that you're writing a musical or writing a book or you have a new song out. It makes a massive difference to have somebody who actually loves you as a person and the things that you create, whether that's your kids or your books or this puppy that you keep bringing home new puppies or new kittens or whatever it is. But, you kind of roll with it, and it's all, I know you said earlier that you feel like a dinosaur and stuff, but I think we're all pretty much 16 at heart. Yeah, I don't know anybody... I don't know anyone that's not that way. We're all 16. I'm still waiting for the adults to come in and tell us what we're allowed to do. And we went to a party a while back, and I was like, who's in charge? Who do we tell if someone gets out of hand? I was like, Vickie, you're 47. So it was, a little embarrassing. And I was like, all right, well.
We went to a wedding, and we danced like we were 20 until the next day.
And then we realized we weren't 20.
Then we weren't 20 anymore.
Absolutely.
It didn't even take till the next day. 10 minutes in, and I'm like, oh my Lord.
Oh, my knees. My knees are gone.
I can't. I'm done.
What's with all these young people? Why is it so loud in here?
One thing which I guess is so comfortable for us that we didn't even mention it, but one platform that I've been we've been singing about since the beginning is we also wanted this to be a very, very inclusive LGBTQ book. So the main characters are a same-sex relationship. There is a main character who's transgender. There's other characters who are off the LGBTQ. Just because we do see more of it now in the media, in the limelight, in books, in literature, and everything.
There should be more representation.
But you know what? Like, for somebody for years, and shout out to Buffy for being one of the first who brought same-sex onto the show.
Absolutely.
But for years, like, that heroism was not represented. And so we're not the first, we're not the pioneers, I know that,
No.
but we want to celebrate that and say, like, along with being part of the supernatural world, we want people to realize that LGBTQ is also kind of its own world, and we want to share that world. At least we're on the perspective if we want to share that world with everyone.
Yeah.
So that's really important to us. And, like, I hope in 2025 there's less people out there who are struggling to be who they want to be or live the life that they want to live. But if you are struggling or something, maybe a book like this is something for you, to give you that little boost of confidence.
I find having stories like that out there, it's not just about the book. It's not about the actual paper and ink. It's really about people hearing your story and saying, hey, I have that, or I'm that person, or I have those details about my life. And you don't know how you're going to inspire somebody. Whether it's that they love the book and they can't wait for the next one, or they sit down, take a pen to paper, or they sit down with a partner and say, look, I have these stories. Or you record, there's technology now where you can record voice to text, where you can tell your book to a device and it will type it out for you, and then you can find an editor, or you can just always get in touch with us and we'll help you format. And again, that is Famous Sexy Writer, a guide to self-publishing. You can also do the bare bones guides, and of course you will see Vincent Walsh and Will Hickey at the upcoming open book night at the Arts and Culture Centre, which is happening on October 26th here in wonderful St. John's, Newfoundland. And we've got a whole bunch of other events coming up, and we are taking self-publishing month on the road. So of course self-publishing month is October, but you can celebrate any time of the year. We're just keeping a lot of the events into October, but we are going to be taking it on the road. We're going to all the Arts and Culture Centres next year, and so, but you will be able to hear Vince read. I think that's going to be really hilarious to see you reading.
Right,
we might pre-record it, but it is going to, and there'll be books for sale, and that's something that we're taking across the country because more self-published authors we need to raise each other up. It is an absolutely viable, accessible route for publishing. You can go the route of writing your book and sending it out to a publisher and hoping that they like it and hoping that it fits into their marketing plan and their, whatever they're publishing that year. And that's a viable option too. I'm more inclined to, go to things that aren't heartbreaking and devastating and don't crush your spirit, and then you want to keep writing when it goes well. So I'm a big proponent of self-publishing.
I like to lean into the saying that the phrase "one size fits all" is usually a lie. I think that there's a lot of us people out there that don't fit into that square, that perfect circle that society is sort of wanting you to fit into. So these are great avenues for that. Like,
I would encourage you in the next book to go into some of the darker recesses and the things that you're like, oh, the world's not ready. I think the world is ready. And the more you lean into that.
The second book gets darker. And for the few feedback fans, despite my discomfort of trying to create a book that teenagers and adults can read and enjoy, there is more sex in the second book. You're welcome.
Sorry, Will. You were going to say, Will.
I was going to say that, yes, I was told that there was not enough sex in the first book by people who were in, and I was still like, we were just trying to be respectful.
I know, right? People want it.
Yeah.
Sometimes, it's a genre.
And it's not like it's graphic or anything like that. People like a little spice. That's real life. I got to tell you, I was going to make fun of you guys, and I was going to talk about how your first book and blah, blah, blah. But I was looking at this. Your book is bigger than all of mine combined. So
that wasn't our intention. It's just when I start on anything, talking over, I can't stop.
And this one is basically just recycled, so these don't even count in the page count. Yeah. So all three of mine still don't equal yours, and you've got another one. So I'm excited about the next one's coming out. Come back. You got to come back on the podcast.
Oh, definitely.
Absolutely. And congratulations on the book, and I'm looking forward to the next ones. And thank you guys so much.
Thank you for having us.
being on Are You Mad at Me? I'm Vickie Morgan, and celebrate Self-Publishing Month. And most important, if you take nothing else away from this conversation, please keep writing.
Mm-hmm.